Shocking findings in a maternity report show too many families are being failed due to racism, understaffing, and a reluctance to admit mistakes. The report into how mothers and babies are treated in hospitals found problems at every stage of the maternity process and many examples of poor care.
I felt ignored and dismissed, but I trusted them. I kind of feel like I should have shouted more, but I shouldn't have had to.
Campaigners are calling for change. The Health Secretary has promised to take action on the final recommendations of the report due in April. Also this lunchtime, more young people facing an uncertain future as the number without a job, not in education or training, rises to almost 1 million. New immigration figures show the number of asylum seekers housed in hotels is down, but the number of arrivals in small boats is up. And powering up, the UK's first geothermal power plant goes live in a pioneering step forward to harness the Earth's heat to warm our homes.
This is the ITV Lunchtime News with Charlotte Hawkins.
Good afternoon. Too many families in England are being failed by maternity services due to racism, understaffing and a reluctance to admit mistakes. That's according to a report by Baroness Amos into how mothers and babies are treated in hospital. It's part of her national maternity and neonatal investigation, and it found deep-rooted issues across the NHS. Mothers have told us they feel ignored and dismissed and not taken seriously. Our health correspondent Rebecca Barry joins me now. And Rebecca, these findings are a real worry, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. They're shocking. But I think perhaps what's most harrowing of all is just how familiar these failures are. Over many years, many times, we have heard these criticisms before. The report states quite starkly, really, that the maternity system in England is just not working for mothers, for babies, for families, or for staff. The investigation found that families are being disregarded and not listened to, as you said. There's staff burnout and low morale. There's structural racism and discrimination. There's a reluctance by trusts to admit mistakes, leaving women to wrongly blame themselves. And there are buildings that are outdated and dilapidated with leaking roofs and a lack of space. Now, I met one couple, Jan and Kimberly. They're the parents of Olivia. Very sadly, Olivia only lived for 6 days, and her mum, Kimberly, feels robbed of even those precious memories of holding her, of dressing her, of smelling her, because she was so ill in hospital at the time. Staff at the Princess Royal Hospital in Sussex thought that her severe pain was trapped wind. It was, in fact, internal bleeding.
I felt like I was looked at as if I was just an anxious mother, but in reality I was bleeding internally. I felt ignored and dismissed, but I trusted them. I kind of feel like I should have shouted more, but I shouldn't have had to.
Now, this family's case is still ongoing. An inquest has been opened, and that will determine the full facts. But the hospital says that it is deeply sorry for the loss of Olivia and that it will do everything it can to help that inquest. Earlier, I spoke to Baroness Amos about her report. The government had promised to set up a task force, but we still haven't got that. How imperative is it that your eventual recommendations are acted upon quickly?
The task force is absolutely crucial. Too many investigation and review reports get left on the shelf. Too many families have been brave enough to come and share their experiences with us. They have been brave enough to relive the most difficult periods of their life, to relive that trauma. We have to make a difference. We can't let this cycle continue.
Now, on that point, the Health Secretary insists that he will be setting up that task force very shortly. Many bereaved families, though, say this should go much further. They want a statutory inquiry, and when I spoke to Baroness Amos earlier today, she wouldn't rule out potentially eventually recommending a statutory inquiry. One final but really important point I'd like to make. These findings will be really worrying for many pregnant women and families listening today. And although there are many maternity failings, I want to stress that the vast majority of births in the UK are safe.
Good point to make. Rebecca, thanks very much. The number of young people in the UK who are not in education, employment or training increased in the final 3 months of last year. Figures from the Office for National Statistics found that the number of so-called NEETs, standing for not in employment, education or training, was close to 1 million from October to December. That's almost 13% of people aged between 16 and 24. And that figure is up by 11,000 compared to the previous 3 months. Our business editor Joel Hills is in Nottingham. Joel, what's going on here?
Well, it's not entirely clear, but there are some strong themes emerging. This charity here is helping 350 young people currently in Nottinghamshire back into work or training. And if you chat to staff, they'll talk of three main pressures. Firstly, a lack of work experience or entry-level jobs in particular, retail, hospitality, pubs, bars, restaurants. They're not taking on young people in the way that they used to in the past. They're also talking about the fact that young people are often suffering from poorer mental health, anxiety in particular, and there's a concern that the benefit system actually isn't proving flexible enough or adapting in a way that's actually supporting people back into work as quickly as it could do. Each young person, of course, has their own story to tell. We're about to hear from Hayden, who got a bar job just before Christmas, and from Nat, who's been looking for work for 18 months.
In terms of the job centres, how helpful was the support you got from job centres?
Would you like the honest answer?
Yes.
They don't help. They push you into benefits and they keep you on benefits. And that's the hard part.
We want to work and we want to earn money and feel good about ourselves. We don't want to be sat at home in a rut, not doing anything and not speaking to people. You know, we need that interaction. We need that social aspect.
The number of 16 to 24-year-olds who are not in work or education has been rising steadily since 2022. Now, the government, it says it's tackling what it calls a crisis of opportunity, and it says it's an absolute priority, not least because youth unemployment, the rate of youth unemployment, we learned last week, has reached its highest level for a decade. It is rolling out its Youth Guarantee Scheme. This will be a guaranteed paid work for young people aged 18 to 21 after they've been unemployed for more than 18 months. The Milburn Review has been commissioned. It will look at making recommendations about how this issue can be tackled. But this morning, the Resolution Foundation, a think tank, points out that this is now approaching a point where it's become very urgent indeed. It wants the Chancellor to use her spring forecast next week as a platform to announce further support.
Joel, many thanks. Child murderer Ian Huntley is reportedly fighting for his life this lunchtime after an attack at a high-security prison in County Durham. Geraint Vincent joins me now. Geraint, what more do we know about what happened here?
Well, the Sun newspaper is reporting that Huntley was knocked unconscious with a metal pole in an attack at Franklin Prison in County Durham. A source they have there saying his condition is, quote, touch and go. The prison service has confirmed only that a prisoner is receiving treatment after an incident, as they put it. And North East Ambulance Service said that 2 ambulance crews attended the prison this morning and 1 patient was taken to hospital. It's not the first time Huntley has been attacked in jail. He had his neck slashed by a fellow inmate in 2010. Ian Huntley is one of the UK's most notorious killers because 24 years ago he murdered 2 schoolgirls, Holly Wells and Jessica Chapman, who went missing after they left a family barbecue one Thursday evening during the summer holidays in August in the Cambridgeshire town of Soham. Their bodies were found in a ditch on nearby farmland 2 weeks later. The case was also significant, Charlotte, because it changed policing. Huntley had faced allegations of rape and sex with underage girls in a different part of the country. And the case led to the creation of a national database so that forces would, from that point on, share information on suspects and criminals more easily.
OK, Geraint, thanks for bringing us up to date with that. A law to allow terminally ill adults the right to end their own lives has been approved in Jersey and the Channel Islands.
And I can announce that the assisted dying law has been adopted in third reading.
The bill passed in the Islands State Assembly with 32 votes for and 16 against. It is the final legislative stage for the landmark proposals before they get royal assent in the UK. Once approved, the first legal assisted deaths could happen as early as next summer. It means Jersey is now the second part of the British island where assisted dying has been fully approved after the Isle of Man. Voters head to the polls today in the Gorton and Denton by-election. 11 candidates are battling to become the next MP for the Greater Manchester constituency. Polls close at 10 p.m. this evening, with the results expected in the early hours of tomorrow. And the Speaker of the House of Lords will meet with the Metropolitan Police after he was misidentified as the source of information which led to the arrest of Lord Peter Mandelson. It was later revealed that it was, in fact, the Speaker of the House of Commons, Sir Lindsay Hoyle, who had tipped off police. Lord Mandelson has since been released without charge and said his priorities are to cooperate with the investigation and clear his name. The number of asylum seekers being housed temporarily in hotels has fallen to its lowest level for 18 months, according to Home Office figures. The number of small boat arrivals to the UK, though, is up by 13%. Our political correspondent Shihab Khan is in Westminster this lunchtime. Shihab, take us through the findings.
Yeah, I think there's some good news and some bad news for the government in these findings. We know that asylum claims have come down. That's something they'll be happy with. We know they've been working quite hard to get the backlog down, but on the other side, small boat crossings are up, which is obviously not what the government wants. I think it might be quite helpful, as you say, just to go through those findings properly and that data properly. This is for the year 2025. The asylum backlog of people who are waiting a decision on their claim is now at a 5-year low. That's something the government will be very happy about. Just over 100,000 people claimed asylum in 2025. That's down 4% on the previous year. The number of asylum seekers in hotels has also gone down. Again, good news, that's at 30,000. That's down 19% on the previous year, but it is higher than when Labour came into office. Now, the one bit of news that they definitely won't be happy about is the small boat arrivals. Those are up. Roughly 41,000 of those happened in 2025. That's a 13% increase. Now, for the government, given that asylum claims are down, one of the reasons for that is because of the changes to student visa requirements and graduates staying in the UK after they come here to study. That's a bit of an explanation. But for the government, they made a number of pledges while they've been in office. They want to get the use of hotel use down by the end of this parliament. They want it completely gone. It's moving in the right direction slowly, but they know that the pressure is on to deliver. When it comes to small boat crossings, that's another one that they know the pressure's on to deliver, so they won't be particularly happy. They say that the figures are moving in the right direction, but they accept that there's more work that needs to be done.
Many thanks, Shihab. Still ahead, spring is in the air, but the warmer weather comes with a perfect storm for hay fever sufferers and harnessing nature to heat homes. Cornwall's first geothermal plant powers up. Adults who were adopted at birth say it's taking too long for them to get hold of the records they need to find out more about their past. The head of the organisation that oversees data protection rights in the UK says he's now written to all councils reminding them of their legal duty to provide the documentation they have to help unlock a person's identity. Sarah Corker has this report.
Zara Phillips from North London has been waiting for nearly 2 years to see her adoption and care files, documents held by the council. It's a chance to piece together her own history, including her earliest moments with her mum.
She went back to the hospital and they put me straight into foster care, and they didn't tell her.
So she didn't even have a chance to say goodbye?
No.
And seeing that in black and white through these documents.
Can't imagine.
It's hard to read as well.
Yeah. And I can't imagine as a mother, your baby's just gone.
She is one of thousands of children who were taken from their mothers during the forced adoption era in the 1950s, 60s and 70s, simply because they were unmarried women. She's pored over every last detail, but her file is still incomplete.
She told me that this isn't all my records, and I thought today I would get everything.
So there are still bits missing even after all this?
Yes, yeah.
How does that make you feel?
Frustrated.
The Information Commissioner says long delays and unexplained redactions from councils must end.
It is completely unacceptable to wait 2 years. We've had one case that we're aware of where somebody waited for 16 years. They need to be resourcing this so that they can meet their obligations within a reasonable time.
Councils say it can take longer to find these older paper files, but that they will act with compassion. Sarah Corker, ITV News.
And you can see Sarah's full report on this emotional story on ITVX or on YouTube. Now, the recent warmer weather may have been welcomed by many as a relief after weeks of rain, but it's caused misery for millions with the early arrival of hay fever season. Tree pollen levels have risen sharply, causing the onset of symptoms for the 25 to 35% of hay fever sufferers who are allergic to it. And there's a warning that if the mild weather continues, the grass pollen season starting from mid-May could be stronger this year. Joining me now is Dr. Sarah Jarvis with more on this. Thank you for joining us this lunchtime, Dr. Sarah. It's frustrating for people, isn't it? You know, the first sign of some warmer weather, which most of us would be pleased about, can actually hit sufferers hard, can't it?
And it can be really difficult because if you get regular hay fever, I'll often say to my patients, well, start taking your antihistamines just before your hay fever symptoms normally start, and particularly the nasal spray, the steroid nasal spray or the drops for your eyes. And the problem we've got is suddenly things have got warm, people have been caught unawares.
And we've got some 13 million people who are affected by hay fever. It's thought about up to 35% of those are particularly susceptible to tree pollen. So they'll be the ones that are finding it difficult right now. For those people who don't have it in their lives, just explain how much of an impact it can have for people.
Well, at best, it's absolutely miserable. The medical term is allergic rhinitis, which means inflammation of your nose. You can get a blocked or stuffy nose, or it can be runny and you can be sneezy. But it also affects your eyes. It can make you feel blocked in the head. It can give you headaches. It can cause an itchy throat. It just is thoroughly miserable, and it can make you feel generally tired. One of the biggest problems I used to have when I first became a GP was that young people would come in and they'd find it really difficult during their exam season. It's really tough to take your exams when it's warm outside and the grass pollen's high. But every year we seem to be getting it earlier and earlier. The most common cause is grass pollen, and that tends to be sort of May to July. But tree pollen, we used to say, late March, maybe to the end of May. Now we're saying could be any time from February, as we're discovering.
That's the thing, it seems to be getting earlier and it seems to be getting stronger as well. For those people feeling the symptoms right now who are suffering, what would you say to them then? Are there effective treatments that can allow them to continue with life as normal?
There are lots of simple measures you can take, so it may not seem the time to be thinking about wraparound sunglasses, but if the sun's out, do wear them. They'll reduce the pollen getting into your eyes. You can put something simple like Vaseline under your nose. When you come in from outside, make sure you take off your outer layer, have a shower, and ideally wash your hair. Never, ever take advantage of this warm weather to dry your clothes outside, because the pollen will just land on them. It'll be a disaster. And then there's several medicines you can get from your pharmacist. So we've got antihistamine tablets, we've got antihistamine sprays and drops, we've got steroid nasal sprays, and we've got something called mast cell stabilizers for eyes. But those need to be taken really regularly. The antihistamines will often work as a one-off.
Good to know. Dr. Sarah Jarvis, thanks very much. Now, moving on, the UK's first geothermal power plant was switched on this morning in Cornwall. The site is set to deliver renewable energy 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, by drawing up hot water from 3 miles underground to power turbines. It will generate power for around 10,000 homes, and it could have a positive impact on energy bills too. Kathy Wardle went to take a look.
We'll go back a couple of hundred years, and this part of Cornwall is at the very heart of traditional mining for things like tin and copper. Now it's at the forefront of very modern mining, but this time going around 3 miles underground down these wells to tap into the natural hot waters found there and generating electricity. Also extracting lithium for things like batteries that go into gadgets and electric cars. Well, to tell me a little bit more about this project, I'm joined now by the CEO of the project, Dr. Ryan Law. Ryan, just explain what you're actually doing underground here behind you.
So we're doing something very exciting. We have
a wellhead at the top here, and beneath our feet we have a 5-kilometre well, so it's a very long way down, the deepest in the UK, and that is tapping into very hot water, so close to 200 degrees C. And we're using that very hot water to spin a turbine, a steam turbine at the surface, to produce electricity 24/7.
And so how can homes across the UK benefit from a project like this here in Cornwall?
So it's taken quite a long time to get to this point, but the great thing about geothermal power is that once you've done all this work, the source of energy is effectively free and renewable. And that means over the lifetime of this plant, the cost of energy is very low.
And so people will be thinking, well, will this help with my bills? You know, is this free energy? How does that work?
It's never free energy, but it does help, because we're entering into an era where we need more electricity in the UK. So the more we can produce, the lower the prices will be.
Fantastic, and a really exciting day for you with the switch on of this project.
Absolutely, it's taken me a long time to get to this point, and we're very excited as a team to finally reach this milestone for the UK.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for speaking to us, Ryan. And some of the electricity from this project has already been sold to Octopus Energy, which will provide power to around 10,000 homes across the UK. And now they've proven that it can work here, we're likely to see more of these geothermal plants developed across the UK.
Kathy Warden there in Cornwall. Now, just before we go, 4 centuries after the animals were driven to extinction, another family of beavers has been released into a Highland glen, marking a wildlife success story. The family of 4 were released at Lochbane, the Glen Affric National Nature Reserve, this week. Beavers were driven to extinction in Scotland some 400 years ago. They are now an officially protected species, and after an initial reintroduction trial in 2009, there are now more than 1,500 beavers across the country. And that is all from us for now. Charlene's here with the evening news at 6:30. The news where you are is next. From everyone on the Lunchtime team, have a great afternoon. Bye.